Open Doors Educational Series. Thank you for that, Whitney. Today we have Chris Cutts speaking to the group today about monetizing your social media. This is the second class of the educational series. So if you guys are needing information from the first class, which was all about storytelling and setting up your Open Doors account, getting your social media assessment done, all of those things like that. I'm sure Chris is going to talk about a couple of those things in this presentation, but if there's information or there is information from the first class that you may need. So if you guys missed that first one and you need the information from it, just put your email in the chat and I'll make sure that you guys get the recording of those first session that we did. But other than that, this is going to be the second session. So thank you guys again for joining. And Chris, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Sorry, excuse me, finding the mute button. All right, everyone, thanks for jumping on here. Excuse me. So what we want to talk about, like Zach just said, is like thinking about social media in a constructive way, right? So when it comes to NIL, if you guys aren't aware, it's primarily done on social. So that means we got to think about our accounts in a more intentional way, which means like we're thinking about what's going out there, how it's set up, what are some of the tools that we use on there. So I'm going to go through that in just a moment, but I want to basically set the table a little bit. So what I'm going to do is kind of share something I saw this week. It's a current athlete. She's a women's basketball player at Nebraska. Don't let that kind of deter you from what the point of the whole thing is. But I'm going to share my screen, show you what we saw as a company at Open Doors just a few days ago. So this is a mom. She reached out to Sam Havey, who's on the women's basketball team in Nebraska, and she got a video from Sam for her daughter, right? So it's a birthday shout out, just like Cameo or anything else you may see when it comes to celebrities or current college athletes, pro athletes. And she got that video. This mom, her name's Barb, paid Sam $50, I believe, for that video shout out and basically made a memory for this young girl, right? So the reason why I'm sharing this, like when we talk about NIL, like, yeah, it's cool, endorse Smile Direct Club, or cool, try to find a Crocs deal or Lulu deal, like whatever it is. But like NIL is this, right? This is where you connect directly with people who watch you in games, who follow you on social media, who are looking for you to create a memory, either for their son or daughter or themselves or their neighbor or family member, whatever it is. Like NIL is not just only promoting products. And that's what I want to kind of help you see right now, because way people reach you or know more about you is right here on social media, right? So if you don't use Twitter, that's fine. Maybe you're on Instagram, which is like every athlete, that's cool. But people are watching you and everything that you're posting and doing. It's good or bad, right? I encourage it being a good thing if you think about it in a constructive or intentional way, because this right here now has a connection between this young girl and that women's basketball player at Nebraska. What happened is that same young girl, took her basketball team and met up with the player after the game. Sam, the women's basketball player in Nebraska, encouraged this, deepening the connection, right? So now we got a lifelong fan and all our teammates taking a photo with Sam after one of their games, right? And creating this memory forever. Like NIL is not just something you think about in the 4 years at Arizona State or 6 years, 5 years, whatever your time is. Like this is a forever thing. And so everything we're doing today is setting the table for the future, right? It's yourself, it's your teammates, it's the people watching you, it's the people hiring you one day. And so we start thinking like, oh shoot, like this is not just something like I'm trying to find $50 today. That's great. We can do that. We can encourage that. But I want us to think big picture here. And so the things I'm going to talk about in terms of set up your social media are setting the table, right? Or setting the pathway for you to walk down as we go through this brand strategy and this NIL journey. Okay. So recap. This is a powerful moment for you as a college athlete to connect with your fans. NIL is a way for you to potentially make money by connecting those fans. It's also just a way for you to empower yourself through this whole thing, like take it on yourself, kind of craft your own story, right? And so what you share on social media is you crafting your story, sharing your story, as you guys already talked about and we'll continue to talk about. So that is a powerful moment. This happens more than you realize. It's just the first thing we talked about is on Monday at Open Doors as a company, okay? So this was all done, athlete, fan, NIL, all made possible based on the rules that were just put in place. So with that, I'm going to launch into the conversation that while we're here, right, what are things y'all can do to set yourself up for success. Okay, so quick recap, Open Doors. I know you guys did this already, but I'm gonna recap it, right? My name is Chris. I work at Open Doors. I oversee our athlete education. What does that mean? I work with athletes all across the country at various levels, helping them understand how NIL works and what are things that you can do from a personal branding strategy standpoint that puts you in positions of success. Open Doors does it a number of ways, right? So it's an app on your phone. You're hopefully getting content or getting access to content or all the other NIL tools on there, right? So the first part is that a social media assessment. If you don't know what that is, this is a time to ask about it. But every Arizona State athlete has it available on their Open Doors app as long as you connect a social media account, right? So that's the understanding. That's one tool. The other side is that content, which I just alluded to. So the idea is you take this content from the athletic department, from games, practices, whatever it is, and you put on your social media. That's what we're talking about today, like using that content in a constructive and intentional way to deepen connections with fans or people who are following you and start to create a future for yourself by what you have in your own hands, okay? This is a tool. So that content is a way to build your brand, one way. There's other ways of doing it. The last piece is Open Doors deals. So there's this whole online marketplace kind of business model that's out there. Open Doors has its own marketplace, Open Doors deals. There's several others out there. I encourage you as an athlete to be on any marketplace you want to be, right? Because the idea here is that you want to drive Uber or Lyft, or you drive for both. So I encourage you to seek out what one makes sense for you. Open Doors deals is obviously a very big marketplace, but there might be some other ones out there that make sense for you. But the idea is you go where you can potentially monetize your brand, make money around NIL. How did that deal happen with Sam Havey? Happened on Open Doors, right? That fan clicked on her public profile on Open Doors. Hey, can I get a birthday shout out for my 10-year-old daughter? And it all occurred right there. Communication app on there. She got paid there. All these marketplaces more or less act the same, right? It just happens in one spot. So this is a one way as all athletes, because you probably don't have an advisor or an agent to help you do this whole thing, for you to manage it in all one place. The marketplaces are kind of where they exist. If you guys have questions about the online marketplaces or NIL marketplaces, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So if you have that, feel free to ask it today, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So that's Open Doors in general. So I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again in case you haven't heard it, but I want to set the table kind of how social media works. It's pretty simple, right? So anyone on this call, you're probably on a team, or if you're an employee of Arizona State, right? You work with a team, you work with some people in your department. Think about this. Who on that team, your teammates, has the most social media posts? Who's posting all the time, right? Okay, the second question on your team, amongst your teammates, who has the most engagements, right? Who's getting likes, comments, shares, retweets, whatever it is, right? The last question is, who on your team has the most followers, okay? I repeat this all the time because it sets the table very easily. The answer to two of those three questions, I can guarantee you, if you think about your team and your teammates, the answer to two of those three questions is the same person, guarantee it. Okay, I feel confident in saying probably the answer to all three of the questions is the same person, but not always the case. But to at least two of those questions has the same answer, same person, because the way it works for athletes on social media is the more you post leads to more engagement, leads to more followers, which increases your value. Okay, and your value, that's an NIL value, a value of network, not a value in life. That's a whole other thing, right? So this is the way social media game works. Okay. When I talk about more posts, it's not meant to be thrown out 10 tweets a day, every day for the rest of your life. I don't mean blowing up your Instagram feed all the time. I don't mean putting 20 things in your story or putting up 3 TikToks every day. Like, that's not how it works. When I say more post, most athletes don't post enough. So what I'm asking is you to think about it in a more consistent, intentional way. That goes back to the content that's shared to you already from the athletic department, right? Taking a game photo or taking a handful of game photos and using that as something to post on a week-by-week basis. Being consistent is really important when it comes to social media as a tool. Because if you sit there and wait for followers to show up, but you haven't posted forever, they don't really know that you're out there. You have to do other things to draw them in, but your content will draw them in. So think about that in a consistent way of posting. When we do that, more people start engaging with it, right? They're following you already. They're probably gonna hit like if they see it. or if they're friends with you or whatever it is, like the more engagement takes your content and puts it in front of people who don't follow you already, right? So they put it on your explore page or your For You page, or just put it on your Twitter timeline, Instagram timeline, whatever it is. That's where it starts getting fed to people who don't follow you already. They see it, like it, hit the follow button. So that increases your followers, which increases your value around NIL or a network of people who could potentially hire you one day or connect with you because they want to get a birthday shout out for their daughter, right? So that value is tied to your followers, right? The more followers you have, the more value you potentially can deliver to people. When more people know about you and they want to connect with you and do more, which requires that idea of having content to be engaged with, which requires you to share content. So that's the game. Social media from a tool standpoint is this: being consistent, just like trying to be a good athlete requires you to be consistent in your practice, which increases more opportunity for people to give you feedback, which is engagement, which increases more conversation around you about what you're posting and who you're about, followers, which grows your bottom line, okay? So that's why we talk about social media. I have some data later. I don't know if I'll even get to it, but I want you guys to hear NIL in college athletics, college athletes. The most common way they make money around NIL is posting on social media. 4 out of 5 NIL deals, 80% of the time, is done on social. So that's why we talk about it so much, right? As a tool. It doesn't mean it's your only tool, right? You got to have multiple things going on. But if you're not thinking about that as a tool, this is where we kind of open up those eyes a little bit, okay? Any questions there before I keep going about social media from a high level as a tool? Okay, so this is where I was saying Marie and her team are sharing content, right? So hopefully you see that content, hopefully you're downloading that content, and hopefully you're either sharing it on your social media or just having it for whenever you want, right? But the idea is they're providing this content to you. When you get this content, this is not content you go out there and monetize, right? So if I got a cool photo from this past weekend's game, I can't stick a logo on it and say, go buy Crocs, right? Like that's not how that works. What you're using this content for is just to have a consistent stream of stuff about you as an athlete, right? And so you get more people seeing, hey, that person's an ASU athlete. Let's learn more. You go out there and monetize content you make or content provided to you by someone who's paying for you. But this content is just for you to have to use in a constructive way. It's the easiest way to start. You know, if you get 3 game photos all year, that's 3 weeks of posts. It's 1 in your feed on a weekly basis, at least. And you post other things that you care about. Okay, so just think about it as a good starting point as you go forward through this whole thing. When we talk about NIL, there's all sorts of tips and pieces of advice, right? These are my 5 rules for NIL, and they're really rooted in social media as a tool, but these are the 5 most important things I want you guys to hear, okay? This applies to social media deals. This applies to birthday shout outs. This applies to merchandise. All of it applies to everything you can do around making money on your name, image, and likeness, okay? So just think about it as you apply it to a specific situation. So hopefully they're kind of high level enough. The first one is finding the alignment. So when we share content on social media, we're creating kind of this lane for ourselves. Like, this is what we're about. You know, this is what people expect from me when they meet me in person or continue to follow on social media. When a brand comes out of nowhere and says, hey, we want to do a deal with you, you want to find what's called alignment, okay? The idea is you want to work with brands that make sense for the brand that you've created for yourself, right? You're in this whole author standpoint of trying to write your story, let people know about everything that you're about. You don't want someone coming in and start rewriting your story on your behalf. That alignment's key. So when you're looking for deals or NIL opportunities, find alignment. It's where you match up with a company or a fan that matches up with kind of what you're creating for yourself, okay? So the alignment's the most important part. Number 2, value the brand will value you. So that means you got to put in the effort to show them that you're the right partner to work with. So that birthday shout out, right? Sam didn't just do one, right? She really valued that opportunity. She delivered a birthday shout out, obviously made the young girl cry because she was so excited because it's her favorite player, right? But the other part was she created another opportunity for them to meet them after the game. She valued that opportunity. Now that mother is going to tell everyone in the world about the great moment that she created for her daughter. Right. So now we got more people who may be out offering, hey, can I get a birthday shout out, Sam? And Sam's going to shoot absolutely and deliver a good product. So value the people you work with, they'll value you. Okay. You can't just put in a little bit and expect a lot back. That's not how this works. Third one is know your value and values, right? So there's two things there. The value is kind of basically what is your price, right? So if someone says, hey, can you do a birthday shout out? Okay, what would you charge in that situation? Or someone says, hey, can you do one Instagram post for me? Or one feed post and a story post? Like, know your price. They don't know it. And if they offer you too low of a figure, you can go back and ask for more, right? Knowing your value is really important. Don't settle for just anything. Don't be afraid to have a conversation about what your value is. The values are things that you stand for, right? So that goes back to the kind of the personal branding strategy, that storytelling. Whatever 3 or 4 of those things are, hold on to those, right? Those are important to you. You lose sight of those, now you got people controlling your destiny. We don't need that, right? This whole NIL thing is an empowerment moment. And so you should be able to think about it and what you care about. You don't have to care about things that like outside your control or really kind of something that you're not about. Just make sure you know what your values are though, when you get opportunities, because that goes back to the alignment thing. Right? Give them options. This is important. So if you get asked to produce content, right? So that means you got to take a photo of holding the water bottle or whatever it is, right? Take 3 or 4, send them options. Or if you have to do a video, send them options. You don't want to send one and have to redo it. It's not fun. We just did a deal or saw a deal, excuse me, with an athlete, and he was doing a video shout out for a brand, but he was wearing the school logo. And he had a school logo on his hat. This is like a day later when the brand finally saw it and they're like, hey, we can't use that. That's against the policy, right, of that school. Like, we need to redo it. And it became a process of trying to finding time to do it as on the athlete side. If that athlete gave them options, right, either did one with logo showing, hey, take the hat off, maybe the logo is not showing on the t-shirt, or, you know, give 3 or 4 options where you're a little more energetic in the second and third, that's important. So if someone's paying you for an opportunity, you want to give them opportunities to choose. That really shows that you value the partnership, you value the opportunity, and hopefully unlocks more down the road. The last one here is just the idea of consistency. I may say it like 10 more times on this Zoom, but if we're on social media, we're consistent in obviously sharing content, right? It doesn't mean you have to share it every week. You can take a month off if you need to. I encourage it. But also being consistent on what you're posting about or what it looks like, right? So you don't necessarily want to do one high quality piece and 10 other pieces that are not consistent with that, right? You also want to be consistent when you get a deal. Like, is that the same type of deal you would accept a month from now? Or did you accept the same type of deal a month ago and you're you know, trying to pivot a different way because all of a sudden you feel that you want to be different? Like, you have to be consistent in everything you do. Okay. So don't lose sight of consistency. And the last piece, it goes back to a little bit of the value side, but I have to say it in this way because it's really important, the authenticity. Authenticity is what brands want. It's what fans want. We're not expecting you to be someone different because we're in an NIL era and there's more eyes, maybe a little bit on your social media content. Like, they don't expect that. So you shouldn't expect to have to create that in the people. Authenticity is also important when you kind of go through this whole journey. Sometimes we try new things, we post content that maybe a little outside our comfort zone and we're not really sure about it. And we don't get a lot of good reaction. We feel unsure. We feel kind of vulnerable. Okay. If we're being authentic, then it's going to come off as sustainable. Like, you can do it over time. And so if we're trying to, you know, use social media in inauthentic ways or try to portray that someone we're not, it won't last. Right. And as I said, this isn't a 4-year solution. Like, this is a forever solution. And so if we think about how we want to kind of approach this from an authentic standpoint, that knows it's going to survive the test of time. Okay. So don't feel like you have to go out there and be someone you're not. And if you're consistent all the way through, that's really important. Okay. Any questions on those 5 rules? Hopefully that makes sense, but if you have questions, happy to answer. Okay. All right, so this is one of the most common questions we get, right? So I talked about social media. 8% of the time, college athletes do NIL. It's because they posted something on social media, like they got paid to do that, right? So they say, how do I get a deal? How do athletes get deals? And I've alluded to it already, but if we look at it this way, right? So it's called a Venn diagram, right? So the company is on one side, right? And that's their values. That's everything the company stands for. Okay. Let's take the other side. That's the athlete. That's everything the athlete stands for. Okay. And this is my first rule. So we're going to recap it because it's important to see it this way. That middle part where that deal occurs is that alignment, right? So if we look at it this way, the company stands for A, B, and C. The athlete stands for B, C, and D. The common connection is the B and C, right? That's the alignment. That's how deals occur. I promise you, athletes, when they get deals, it's because of alignment. You may see one-off deals like promoting Smile Direct Club because they got a DM about it and they got a sales code to promote. But the ones that happen more often is where the alignment occurs. So if you're looking how athletes get deals, they found alignment. They work with companies that work for the same things that they're about. Okay, so that's important to find. So when you're starting to kind of map out who you want to work with, and you're trying to be authentic in those with those companies you work with, just identify those 4 or 5 things that you really love. Maybe it's a few restaurants around Tempe, or maybe a few restaurants back home, or some companies that you wear that maybe aren't big time brands, but they're maybe specific to your sport. So let's say you're a swimmer, right? There's obviously very specific swim brands that kind of associate with your sport. Those are ones that you potentially could identify to work with because obviously you're a swimmer and the company stands for the same values you have. That's the alignment. You reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to help promote your products. I'm a swimmer at ASU. Would you like to do a deal, right? Would you like to work together? That's how it occurs. Like that alignment is because the values match up along the way. So hopefully that makes some sense. Like when athletes do deals, because it's the alignment of the values that they both stand for. Now, on this point, you're thinking, okay, that sounds great and all, but like, what are my values? Like, can you help me identify what those could be? I'm happy to do that, right? But it's also something like you would just reflect on yourself. So for me, working with Open Doors, people can automatically assume I care about athletes and their name, image, likeness, right? That's fair. That's what my values are, like helping athletes every day. So if a company is also in that same space, and let's say I'm an athlete and they want to work with me, they're going to see that's what my values are, and they're going to say, can we go and have the conversation? Okay, so that's where you would come out of the session and say, what do I stand for? Right? If I looked at my social media right now, look through my feed, my Instagram feed, like what do I see? Right? Is it a bunch of sports photos, right? Or is it a bunch of photos going out? Is it a bunch of photos promoting like shoes that I wear all the time? Whatever it is, like that's what you should see. Like that's what people think my values are. And that pause of reflection is that what my values truly are though? Like are other things that I care about that maybe I'm not sharing, things I deeply care about and I want to continue to share over time. So while I can help you through that, I want you guys to reflect on that a little bit and think about what people see on your social media. Okay, that's the easiest way to reflect on it. Don't even come in with a bias. Like just immediately jump in and say, okay, what am I seeing? Am I like watching a bunch of sports and tweeting out a bunch of reactions? Cool, this person's passionate about watching sports. Or do I see a bunch of links out to my Twitch streams because I'm big into video games? Great, this person's about video games. Or do I see on my Instagram feed only sports photos? Great, they're an athlete. They're very dedicated to their craft. Once we understand what it is currently, then we start evaluating, is that what we want going forward? Okay, so that's a little exercise, hopefully for everyone on this Zoom to jump in to your Instagram, to your TikTok, to your, whatever it is, and identify what people see based on your content. And you may be doing that already, that's great, but it's also time to pause and make sure, is that what you really want to do going forward? Because on the other side is ways for people to connect with you and potentially brands who want to work with you, right? Or you go to them, hey, you want to work together. They're going to look at your resume. They're going to look at your social media feed. So we want to just make sure we understand what's out there. This isn't meant to scare you either. Like, I don't want you to walk into this whole thing. Let me stop sharing this. I don't want you to walk in this whole thing and think, oh, I can't hit anything on social media because it's not right. right? It's not what people are looking for. That's the best part. Like, people don't have a preconceived notion of what they're expecting from you. You're in control of this whole thing, right? Now, you need to understand kind of the long-term impact, but that's normal, right? Like, you obviously make decisions in your sport that makes an impact on the final results or impacts on your career. Same thing here, right? But if we start just being like, well, what's authentic to myself, we feel a little more empowered. Okay, so that's how social media should be used. It's kind of your terms on how you want to go forward. Let's do this. So I'm going to keep playing this game. Let's see if I stop sharing that. Right. So I'm going to pull up a few athletes' social media feeds, right? There's no athletes on this call that I'm pulling up, so hopefully we don't embarrass anyone. But before I do that, call for questions on anything about I've said so far. Questions? No questions? Okay. So you got Sedona Prince, right? Oregon women's basketball player. If there's any women's basketball players on this call and you don't want me to show Sedona, it's fine, right? But what do I see, right? Few photos of her as a person, few photos of her as an athlete, right? Which one on this is going to be an NIL deal? Can you guys guess which one's one she was paid to post about? Anybody? It's this one, right? Hopefully you notice she's wearing the same jacket here, but she was not paid to post this one. She was paid to post this one. It's for the brand of jacket that she's wearing, right? My point of that, calling that out, is it doesn't stand out in a bad way. It's authentic to her brand. It's authentic to her Instagram feed. You can't tell what she's paid to post. So when athletes post on Instagram for NIL deals, you want to make sure it feels natural. You can even be a very high-level star athlete and still make it feel like it's authentic to everything that you're sharing. Okay, let's pull up another one here, right? So this is a Texas football player, right? We'll look at his last 6 posts. Which one do you think he was paid to post about? Right? It's this one, okay? Easy photo of him with a kid. It's a trampoline park. I believe it's in the Austin area. He was paid to post at like a new location opening up. If I looked at his feed, it doesn't feel like it stands out, right? He's very intentional with these postings. He's got some photos that are shared to him on open doors, no big deal, right? He's also doing a reels. He's also doing a quick photo here with this kid, okay? He was paid to post this. He was paid to show up and do an appearance. Like, it feels natural, right? You can even see his profile set up here. He's got his full name in there, his profile name. He's got his little nickname, which I believe he drops reference to that. Some merch here later on, yep. So he's got some merch. He uses Agent Zero there. It's dropped in his bio. He even has a way to reach out to him on NIL deals. All right, let's keep going here. So it's Nicklin Hames, volleyball player in Nebraska. Let's go to the last 6 posts. Which one was she paid to post, right? There's several on here. This would make some sense, okay? But one that you may not think is paid to post is this one. So it's with a deal with her teammates, right? And they're promoting an ice cream brand that they end up doing with a local ice cream store here in Lincoln, right? And she did a couple other paid posts. Obviously, logos are presence, you can know that. But she has posted other consistent things. So when she does these deals with a bank, cable company, it doesn't feel overwhelming that she's obviously promoting different businesses out there, right? So that's, again, thinking about social media in an intentional way. Like, even if you drop in a paid post that clearly stands out, her followers aren't going to unfollow her, right? And in fact, she's promoting a local company, so it feels somewhat even better, right? Or she's doing an NIL deal with all her teammates, promoting an ice cream shop that probably a lot of different college age students go to. Okay, so she's very, very smart with what she posts on social media. Obviously, your bio, another thing calling out, again, her full name is right there in her profile name. Whenever I say that, I'm not talking about their @, I'm talking about that profile name. She also has a creator account. So if you see an athlete out there that has this tag, athlete, I think someone else has something else, someone else on here as an entrepreneur, but that means they have a creator account. I do recommend, if you're building your brand on Instagram, to switch from a personal account to a creator account. There's a couple advantages to that, right? You can get some control on the DMs you receive. You can control the words that show up in your comments if that becomes an issue. You also get a little deeper level analytics. You can see kind of where your followers are at, your follower growth. So that's all it is. It kind of unlocks some different features that hopefully helps you as an athlete. The other thing I'll say though is if you tag yourself on a creator account, you can identify what you are. If you tag yourself as an athlete, that hopefully helps you find more NIL opportunities. Someone just did a big search on Instagram for all athletes. So keep that in mind. If you have an Instagram, you're really trying to be intentional here, and you want to kind of unlock some different features in terms of safety controls, right? Or even some deeper analytics to help you understand how your followers are growing and your engagements are going, change your Instagram account to a creator account. You can do that right there on the platform in the settings, okay? A couple other things I'm calling out here is your bio. Every athlete probably lacks a very simple bio. So if you're listening to me right now, this is where I encourage you on all your social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, do what Nicklin did here, right? School, sport, jersey number, and she put Tennessee. I believe she's from Tennessee, so that's her hometown or home state. Okay, I can't get that information quickly and easily, but I can easily see right there if I look for Nicklin Hames on Instagram, and this is the right athlete I'm looking for, right? There's no confusion of is it Nicklin Hames at another program? Is it Nicklin Hames who plays volleyball? Like her bio is very simple. Okay, ASU, swimmer, obviously no jersey number, and put your home state, right? California, Nevada, whatever it is. Or Arizona State, hockey, 27, Canada, whatever it is. Like just keep that in mind. Like that's all your bio has to be. Like we don't, if you want to add more, I encourage it, right? We talked about having a nickname in there in the bio. That's cool too. But just make it simple for people to quickly know, hey, this is the person I'm looking for. If you're not aware, like when people search to find you on social media, you probably do it too. Once you're like really creeping and trying to find someone like really in the weeds, they got like 5 seconds and that's it. They're not going to waste their time trying to find you in like the 10 different photos that show up in the search. How do you quickly identify that's you? Your bio, right? Or at least your full name is your profile name. It applies to all accounts. Every account, you should make your profile name, right? Not your profile name, your full name, and you should make your bio pretty simple. Doesn't need to be much. All right, so this is Joe, a basketball player at Long Beach State, I believe. Yep, so Long Beach State. He was on Last Chance U, that's cool, right? He's got a bunch of followers, but look at him, right? He obviously identifies his school, his sport. You can find his other handles there. Which of these deals do you think he got paid to post? You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which one of those?
5.
5. Thank you for guessing. I appreciate that. Close is this one right here. It's number 4. Right? Reebok paid him to post. They encouraged their athletes, part of the campaign, to take a very authentic photo. I'll show you another one here in just a moment. Another athlete did it. But this post right here, hopefully you're noticing it doesn't stand out, right? It feels natural to everything else he's posting. That means they're going to see good engagement, right? 23,000 likes on 237,000 followers. That's 10%. It's pretty good. I think a lot of people would love 10% engagement, no matter how many followers you have. Okay, just ask Marie on the team accounts, right? Like that's how easy this is, right? When you get an opportunity, don't have to be someone you're not. Even if you're paid to post it, just think about how simple it looks into everything else that you're posting. Okay. I already called out his bio. Obviously, other thing on here is like the website link. This is pretty common for most social media platforms, but you can drop in a social media, a website link right there. So he connects out to this Reebok campaign, right? Like Reebok wanted people to click on and learn more about him as an athlete. I encourage you guys to have something there. If you don't have something like quickly, like a website or something that you built out for people to click and find more out about you, put your ASU bio on there, right? Everyone has one of those. That's on the ASU athletics website. Grab that, right? Or if you have a profile in online marketplace, such as Open Doors, right? Click over on Blake's, maybe. Blake has his Open Doors profile right there, right? You guys all have access to that. That's basically a way for people to connect with you directly. This deal, as I talked about already with Sam, was made possible because her profile was clicked on. right? So NIL deals can be promoting products. They can be looking for shout outs on social media or whatever it is. They need a way to quickly connect with you. So Nicklin has her Gmail right there in her bio. I do not necessarily encourage that. I think her dad runs that, right? Because obviously people now have her email out there. We saw some different cases here where there's an advisor, right? But you can also just do something as simple as putting your Open Doors profile or whatever online marketplace profile you have. You're trying to kind of receive NIL opportunities. So that's important to know. Like that website is an easy way to learn more. I think Nicklin had a link tree, right? If you guys aren't familiar with Linktree, it's a way to put a bunch of different links in there. So she promotes her Cameo. She does a little debit card, which is part of an NIL deal. See an Open Doors profile, her podcast, another NIL deal that she did. There's other ways to kind of share more links. Linktree is one of the services. There's a couple of other ones out there. Okay. Jade. All right. So you got Jade, Oregon State. You guys can boo me. All right. She's a gymnast. This one's a little easy. She was paid to post this one. Okay. Obviously stands out from the other gymnast posts that she had. But if you keep scrolling, right, it doesn't feel completely out of kind of the feed. Just normal post of her. Okay. Again, NIL opportunities don't have to be something that you're not comfortable doing. You obviously give them options, and the brand will say that's all good. Okay, of course, she's good at her sport by all means, so she has some different things in her bio. Adrian, this is another Reebok deal. So Adrian Martinez, former quarterback Nebraska, now at Kansas State. He's paid to do this Reebok deal, took some photos on these steps, okay? You can see he's clearly promoting something here, right? By the way, Nebraska allows their athletes to use the logo of the university, so that's why he's doing it there. I believe you guys have to get permission, is that right? ASU athletes? Yep. So if you just have permission, to use different logos out there, you can. So he's promoting Pepsi in this case. He was allowed to use a Nebraska logo, but here, no logo is present from Reebok, okay? His bio, a little more involved, but it's also very much appreciated, right? He talks about former Nebraska QB, so a lot of his followers know him as, where he's currently at, his hometown, where he was, and now he's in Manhattan, and a couple of different links, okay? He links out to his podcast. Again, using this real estate's really important, right? Quickly know where he's from, California kid, now playing quarterback in the Midwest. Here's his podcast to listen to his weekly thing. Here's another one. Again, good bio here. A couple different posts, right? Paid to post this one. Another example here. Emily is a Duke track and field athlete, I believe. I think she's cross country as well, right? She has a bunch of different highlights, which is good for people to learn more about her. You can also see if I click on her version of Linktree, it's another service out there. You can learn about the book that she's trying to write called Athletes, right? And you learn more about them. Again, using that real estate more or less right there in your bio is really helpful. That's a good thing to do. Last one I'll call is Danielle. So Danielle is a Wisconsin volleyball player, okay? If I looked at her feed, it's very normal, right? Volleyball, friends, beach, lake, whatever it is, okay? But she's all about her art. And she's actually making pretty good money, relatively speaking, based on the art she's creating. So she has links out to her other accounts. Another question I get from athletes is, okay, I have this passion and I don't know if I should put it all on my personal feed. Should I build out another account? I usually just tell the athlete, like, obviously you got to consider, your followers are going to eventually go to that other account to learn more about it too, but also make it easier for people to learn more about those accounts, put it in your bio. So if I quickly look up Danielle Hart because she's on the Wisconsin volleyball team, want to see what she's posting about. Oh, she's also about art. What does that look like? Click on it. You can see all the different things that she's doing with her art. Okay. So make it easy for people to connect and learn more about you by using your bio. Create other accounts if you have enough to build out there. And you can even click out to her website where you can buy directly from her. Okay. So if you're thinking about doing NIL, and it's not necessarily promoting products, but things that you're creating, right? Shoes, art, whatever it is, like make accounts for those, but understand it's going to take time to build it. So promote it in your Instagram stories, shout it out on different accounts, have your friends shout it out, gain your followers. And that's how you kind of grow out the money-making opportunity around that space by letting people know where you're at, where you're operating, okay? There's so much here on social media that like a lot of people aren't considering, but they're really simple things, right? Just kind of extending out where people can learn more. whether it's stories, highlights, making sure your bio is filled out, making sure people can connect with you directly, right? Or maybe even having your open doors profile there. Okay, that was a lot. I feel like I just talked for 15 minutes straight. What questions do we have? Social media when it comes to money making opportunities in NIL.
Well, first, Chris, thanks for coming and talking with us. Appreciate it a lot. I'm pretty interested in this aspect, and I've gotten like a lot of success just with direct messaging, but I didn't know what your thoughts were on like, because on sometimes I've gone to like the company that I'm interested in or I've worked with and gone to like contact us, and there'll be partnerships, or they'll kind of just liaise on that, like in the direct messages will be like reach out to this, and it's the same one as the company. Which you feel like is more effective?
More effective than DMing? Like, are you saying, go ahead, sorry.
Either like going to the contact us link that they have on the company, or direct message. Like, do you find one of those is more successful in communicating than the other?
I think for athletes, it's actually more effective to DM, because who's running those accounts are the Maries of the world who are just looking for an instant connection with people who are following them, right? So you come in and say, ASU, Grant, are you a swimmer? Is that right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yep. So swimmer, you say, I'm a swimmer at ASU, big fan of your brand, big fan of wear your stuff or whatever it is. Like, they'll make that instant connection. That's a person who's running that account. I promise you, it's not a robot, right? But if you email a customer service at, what's a brand that you love? Arena, customer service at arena.com, whatever it is. I don't know who's seeing that, right? And it may be someone who has no understanding of NIL and college athletes or ASU or swimming or whatever it is. So I think running the DM route is more effective for college athletes, because the people who are on those, running those accounts, more or less understand what's going on, right? Now, if they tell you to, hey, go email this thing, great. Take that opportunity, say, hey, I reached out on this social media account. If someone references their name, reference their name in that communication, that generic email. You know, may have to spell out a few more things like, hey, here's my social media accounts. It's what I care about. It's my success in my sport. May have to spell a few more things in an email, but DMs are a little more easier because they can quickly connect, click on your profile and connect with you more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for Chris?
Yeah, Chris, I got a question for you. Is there ever such a thing as posting too much, like that it's like obnoxious, or is that like not as common as like not posting at all, I guess?
Yeah, so which account, like what platforms, which one are you referencing exactly?
Let's just say Instagram.
Yep. So I don't recommend putting on your feed every day. That's unhealthy, right? You know, maybe it's a story every day or every few days in the week. I saw a really interesting thing. So it was a brand account. They looked at their year's worth of posts in 2020. They posted every 9 days, right? That's the behavior, every 9 days. So that's roughly 50 times a year on Instagram in the feed. And the next year in 2021, they posted every 3 days, right? So now we're talking about double the amount of posts. Their follower growth more than doubled, right? Their engagements, of course, increased. So while the answer is not every day, and it's also not enough, there is a sweet spot. And so I think I think weekly is a good starting point. I feel like if you post more than that, that's okay, right? Maybe it's twice a week if you feel like you have enough content. Don't feel like you're pressured to do that. But that's where it kind of stays away from being too much. I would just say, like, if you got friends on Instagram and they're posting every day and you constantly see their stuff, and eventually you just kind of lose sight, or if they're a close friend, you don't necessarily do this, but if it's a high school friend, like, you just say, like, I'm tired of seeing their stuff, because it's always in front of you. But, you know, once a week or twice a week.
Okay. So like, would you basically say, like, I feel like, you know, like posting on a story isn't like, I don't know, as valuable as an actual post. So like, like probably on your story every day is fine, but just like,
for sure.
An actual post. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Like, that's a good behavior. Like, depending who you follow, right? Like, maybe you're posting coffee thing every day because that's just a thing you do. Got another coffee. Here's my coffee for the day. Whatever it is, like, that's a normal thing on the story.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, like Snapchat stories, same idea. Like you're just kind of expressing what you're doing throughout the day, and people comment on it, whatever it is. Instagram story, the same idea.
Hi, I also had a question. It's kind of hard to explain unless I explain like my situation, but you always say full name on Instagram, on Twitter, everything like that. But my name is Cassandra, but my name on my roster is Cassie. So I get confused on and nobody calls me my full name. I'm always called Cassie, and my name on my roster is Cassie. So I was wondering if that's all right, or if I need to change
Yeah,
that.
I love that question. Yeah, because usually that's where I got to correct myself. Basically, if you're wondering what your name should be, whatever's on your ASU roster page, right? Like whatever people know you by, that's what I mean by your full name. Don't put your legal name on your driver's license if that's not what people call you, right? My name's Christopher. I get here Christopher when I'm in trouble with my family. Like that's all I get, right? So keep that in mind. Whatever people commonly know you as, that's what I mean when I say full name on your Instagram or social media.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, good call out.
Okay, I did have a question about TikTok specifically.
Yep.
I feel like that's another one where you can post a little bit more. Yeah, maybe.
Yep. Yep. So that's why I asked the platform question. So there's an athlete. She's a rower on the other side of the country from you guys. I was talking to her about her experience growing her TikTok. She wanted to make a very intentional effort. So this is understand, everyone hears me. Like this is not something everyone should do if this is not what you're comfortable doing. But she was just saying like, I want to get better at TikTok. I want to grow my followers. I'm a rower, so naturally more eyes are not always on me, right? She posted every day. Like she made an effort to do that for about 6 months because she was trying to grow her following. That is okay. Because think about it. We look at our For You page, we don't see everyone's content every time they post. Same idea.
Right.
If it starts to, algorithm says it's really good, more people will see it, right? So that's something where you can maybe do for a short time as you start to build out what your TikTok looks like to be a little more on a daily basis.
Cool.
TikTok is also, sorry, real quick. TikTok is also interesting because there's trends. Like you jump on one day, there's a new sound to play with, and you go on the next day, there's another sound. Like it won't matter. No one's gonna know any different whether you posted yesterday or not.
I was just gonna say, just out of curiosity, did that work out for her, or?
She's got 12,000 followers on TikTok, and I don't know if she's necessarily like a superstar rower, right? But it doesn't matter. Like she carved out her lane. So again, I'm not here to say everyone go post on TikTok every day because she got 12,000 followers on TikTok. Like that's not it. But she was very intentional with it, and she made an effort towards it. And so she would lean into trends, jump on sounds. Obviously, you can follow a bunch of accounts that tell you the trends or the next upcoming trends. You lean in those a little early. But yeah, it worked for her. She did say she was burnt out, though. She did say it was a lot to do. So expect that if you do it every day for 6 months.
Yeah, because I was gonna say TikTok is a tough app. It's like some days it'll just flop, and some days it'll be amazing. It's draining.
Then that's what her feedback was. She was like, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is like, I think I put a lot of work in this one piece and it didn't land. And then I throw something up there and for some reason it took off. But if you go in knowing that, hopefully it's a better experience because it's just like, yeah, well, that one didn't work. I'll just jump on Plant TikTok next or whatever it is.
Any more questions? We got about 8 minutes left.
Yeah, I had a question. What is the advantage of like being on multiple platforms? Like as athletes, shall we like be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and like Snapchat? Like, is there like a big gain of like being on all platforms?
I would say there's not necessarily a big gain. I would just channel the one or two you really care about. So if you're more on Instagram but don't really care about Facebook, that makes sense. I also encourage all athletes to have one that's just for yourself, right? So like, don't have to feel like you got to create this brand on all platforms. Maybe you just have one that you share with close family and friends or whatever it is. And it's usually Snapchat, right? Just because we have more people that we're close with on that account, on that platform. So most athletes, when it comes to making money around NIL, is on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Facebook is kind of a sleeping giant, but no one wants to listen to me when I talk about Facebook as an opportunity for athletes. So I would say just finding one or two that makes sense for you when it comes to building out your brand just putting your energy towards that. YouTube, one I didn't reference, is another one to consider. But no, you only have so much time, and if you're feel like you got to post 5 different things, that's pretty overwhelming.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, with like, I've seen some accounts, and obviously they're like very aesthetically pleasing to see, like when they have the posts like line up and match. Have you seen like that is like helpful at all, or is it just kind of like pleasing to view it as it goes and like correlates with one another?
All right, so you're talking about the feed, Instagram feed mostly, probably.
Yeah, that's like the primary one.
Yeah. For a while that was a thing. Like it's got to be all like you jump on. You guys want to know this on the call, but if you jump on like a wedding account, wedding photographer account, it's all got that similar feel, right? That makes sense for that, but for an athlete, I think that's a little overstated, right? So I don't feel like you need to stress out on that a little bit. I would just be consistent on what you're sharing, right? But obviously, if you disposable cameras was a big play, for a while this past fall, right? Say 1 or 2 dispo photos, that's cool, but doesn't mean you need to kind of make your feed entirely vintage looking. So don't feel overwhelmed by that or stressed by that. It's not as important as you may think. Now, but I'll talk about it. Like I'll go back to that wedding photographer example. So I showed you Danielle's, right? She has her brand account, the art account. This is very aesthetically the same, right? But that's because she's selling this art. It's got to fit that brand, right? That's a very different case. If I go back to her personal feed, right, it's a different story, right? Some photos are provided to her, some friend photos just on an iPhone, stuff like that.
Any more questions for Chris? All right. Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your evening to speak with us tonight. Again, for everyone that's participating in this is the second of 4 classes that we're doing. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick so I can show you guys the rest of the sessions. Our next session is going to be on February 15th, and that's going to be focusing on hustle strategies that some of your peers here at Arizona State have been using, who have been benefiting from NIL. So it's going to be the same time, 6 to 7 p.m. on February the 15th. And our last class will be on March 1st. That's going to focus on all the money aspects of NIL and kind of what to do with that money and what that money means actually for you guys. Again, with it being a series, all of these classes are kind of complementing each other. So everything that Chris just went over is complemented by what me and Whitney went over in the first class. So if you guys need a recording of that session, which is pretty much everybody in this Zoom besides Grant, please drop your email in the chat so I can make sure that I get you guys that recording as